Hi, my name's Jeff Gamon. I'm executive producer at EA Partners for Syndicate.
So how does it feel to have the worst kept industry secret out in the open finally?
Well, is it worst kept really?
I think it's close.
I never heard anything about it. It's great. I mean, it's been a long project. We've taken our time to get it right, and the reception that we got from today and when we announced over in the States a couple of weeks ago has all been so positive. It's quite overwhelming, really, and it's kind of quite cathartic to kind of be able to get out there and talk about it, get it off my chest.
Yeah. Is it awkward for you? Because usually, take Mass Effect for example, announced at least 12 months in advance of the release date. Now it got announced about a month ago. It's out in February. So concentrate all that kind of anticipation into that such a small window.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we kind of planned to do, really. It's I mean, I don't think there's any kind of real story. It's just the way the cards fell in terms that we ended up with this campaign. I mean, I quite like putting a consumer hat on. I actually quite like the idea of case of like, well, there's this new game coming. It looks pretty cool, and say, oh, I can get it in 4 months. So that in that respect, it's pretty good. Other positives mean that we've got a lot of material. The game's not finished, but it's there's a lot that we can show off and a lot we can talk about. So, but yeah, it's going to be an aggressive campaign and a busy time for us to kind of get it all out there. Yeah. Well, we had the opportunity to work with Starbreeze first, and the role of EA Partners is to partner with the best development talent, independent development talent out there in the industry. So, and there's always been certainly within EA UK, myself and others who have been around at EA long enough, this need to bring Syndicate back. It's always been there as something that we've wanted to do, and the planets aligned really. We had this opportunity to work with Starbreeze, who have the reputation for taking other people's IPs and making more than just an interactive version of it. They actually put something of themselves in it. They take the essence of those IPs and create a great gaming experience out of them. So, taking the Syndicate IP and partnering it with Starbreeze with this opportunity that we had to work with them seemed like an ideal opportunity to get the Syndicate project off the ground. We never set out to remake the original. The original was a classic of its time, and we all loved it. I mean, my work stopped for me when the original Syndicate came out. Very much a huge fan of it, but we wanted to take the elements that made it such a classic, genre aside, and just recreate those in a whole new form. Why remake it?
So what sort of pillars of gameplay have you brought forward from the original that you put forward?
Well, certainly, I mean, we've taken the world, it's that kind of brutal cyberpunk world. Obviously the agents were just cool. The brutality of it, the weaponry, and then in the co-op version there's this whole kind of mission structure as well, which you see realised in the four-player co-op missions. When we started this project, we kind of looked at what made the original such a classic of its time. What are those kind of pillars, as you described, and those elements, like the brutal world, like the weaponry, like the chips inside their heads. And if you took all of those ingredients today, and what kind of game would you make? And I think a first-person shooter is where you actually play the role of those agents is absolutely the way to go with this. In our world of 2069, everyone has chosen to have a chip in their head. This is like a portal to the dataverse, so they can access essentially the internet, I guess, but all the digital systems in the world as well via this chip. It's layered into their perception. So, and like any digital system, it's vulnerable to hacking. So as an agent, you have a militarized version of this chip in your head, and that has the ability to breach or hack into the digital systems that are in the environment, but also in the heads of your enemies. So, and this is the arms race, if you like, of 2069. So you're the latest generation agent. So I can, in combat, I can just, as part of the rhythm of the shooter, I can use my weapon to attack, but I can also attack the enemy digitally by breaching his chip and either causing him to commit suicide, where he'll pull a grenade and blow up everyone around him, or I can persuade him to switch allegiance and fight on my side for a limited amount of time. I can plant viruses, I can cause them to be paralyzed, all sorts of things. I think in-man shooter is a very good way of describing it. I think we wanted to kind of add more depth and richness to the genre. I mean, at its core, we've done our utmost to make the best first-person shooter experience we can. We've got fantastic weaponry, kind of contemporary ballistic weaponry, but also kind of future weaponry from reimagined from the original, and we've got fantastic best-of-breed AI as well. But it's a Starbreeze game, and these guys bring more to the first-person perspective. They put a kind of physicality into the character. You're not just a camera with a gun attached. You're actually there in the world. You can climb, slide, vault, and jump as well. And there is a kind of a route finding, a puzzle-solving element to the shooting action as well. Yeah, but we didn't predict that when we started this that Cyberpunk was going to be big. But I mean, to answer the Deus Ex question first, I mean, we're set in a similar kind of fiction, if you like, in a similar kind of like future of a cyberpunk future. But I think the games are, at that point diverge massively. It's we're very much a core first-person shooter. Deus Ex leans heavily on the kind of strategic RPG element as well. So in terms of like, are we the timing in terms of Cyberpunk? I think it's our fiction, our world, our story is probably more relevant today than it was when the original came out back in '93. A future world of corporate governance, of corruption, feels kind of uncomfortably real at the moment. And I think the more, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, then it's a good story. I mean, it's working in that respect. So I mean, the co-op and single player were always kind of equal partners in this product. So and the co-op mode, it kind of really does take you back to the original in that it's 4 agents raiding enemy Syndicate territory. So there are 9 maps which are completely separate from the single player. They're kind of and that kind of they're grouped into 3 campaigns of 3 maps where you're taking down each of the rival syndicates in turn. So the co-op campaign is you create your syndicate, and it's the story of your rise to world dominance by taking out the opposition. As you play through the game, both single player and the co-op campaign, we tried to. There's 3 syndicates in play. There's the Eurocorp syndicate, the Aspari, and Gamon Global, and we tried to get a different kind of style associated with each of them. Aspari, for example, as you played in the single player, they're very much an Asian kind of Eastern influenced syndicate. So you've got a kind of dark, rich colours, and you notice the security guys with the kind of samurai style armour on and things like that as well. So whereas the co-op level you're playing is a Eurocorp, so it's kind of a Western, clean-looking architecture. It's more than just a co-op mode. There's a whole campaign around it. There's player progression and persistence around the co-op mode as well. I mean, in the first-person shooter space, I think to have the ability to play with your friends, to well, in our case, cooperate. I mean, there's always a degree of competition. Everyone wants the highest score, but I don't think it's necessarily a requirement, but it is almost a given, I think. And in terms of the scope, we weren't ticking a box with co-op. It's just if we were remaking Syndicate and reimagining Syndicate, the 4-player co-op seems a requirement for us, just purely from a product in a creative sense, to have it.
How are you encouraging players to play the co-op? I mean, once you see the story,
it's not just the story. I mean, there's different skill levels for starters, but you develop your agent. So when you first start playing, you're pretty much a low-level guy, low experience. And as you progress through the game, you rip the technology from the heads, or the blueprints for the technology from the heads of the bosses that you defeat. And those blueprints you can then research. So you develop new breach applications. You can upgrade your agent's chip in terms of the stamina and speeds, etc. But also new weapons and weapon upgrades as well. So there's a huge scope to the co-op game, and you have to develop your character to be able to even to compete at the higher skill levels.
Do you have a favourite breach?
Favourite breach? I think I never get tired of seeing the suicide breach actually, but especially when you got a bunch of the enemy in cover and giving you a few problems to actually cause a guy to just pull out a grenade and detonate it and take out everyone is great. It's out February 24th in Europe.